Now, Admiral, in exchange for your promise not to attack us, we will grant you exclusive fishing rights in Super Nova Scotia.
Welcome to MsMojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 cartoon character voices that are actually impressions.
With a crummy house like that in the neighborhood, you know what's gonna happen to the value of your property?
For this list, we're looking at the most famous cartoon voices that are the product of actors simply doing impressions of other people. Who do you think did the most accurate imitation? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Yogi Bear is inspired by Ed Norton. Various.
Ready, boo-boo boy? Go!
Not to be confused with the Ed Norton from Fight Club, this Ed Norton is a character from The Honeymooners, a CBS series that ran for about a year in the 50s.
Hey, good thinking. Just tell him you're smart, but you got no good connection.
When Dawes Butler set out to record a voice for Yogi Bear, who was being introduced in the Huckleberry Hound show, he apparently drew inspiration from Ed Norton, played by Art Carney. If you were a kid growing up in the mid to late 50s and early 60s, there's a good chance you'll have spotted the similarities in mannerisms and inflection.
I will just cover my weakest spot with this old football helmet.
Number 9. The Brain's voice is an impression of Orson Welles, Pinky and the Brain, and Animaniacs.
Roll on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll, Byron.
How many of you have the theme song playing in your head after merely hearing the title? Yeah, us too. When Maurice LaMarche was asked to read for the brain half of Pinky and the Brain, he thought the character's design was meant to resemble Orson Welles.
It'll make you all happy to learn that our circulation this morning was the greatest in New York, 684,000.
LaMarche was already accustomed to impersonating Welles, so he went ahead with the voice, and even though the brain wasn't actually modeled after Welles, it's impossible not to see how well it works. There's actually a clip in Animaniacs of the brain spoofing an Orson Welles outtake, and it is glorious.
Now, what is it you want? In your depths of your ignorance, what is it you want? Whatever it is you want, I can't deliver because I just don't see it.
Number 8. Zapp Brannigan's voice replicates Phil Hartman. Futurama.
What say you go out on the wing and pretend you're a gremlin?
This is one of the more intentional impressions on our list, in the sense that everyone knew what the voice should sound like. Phil Hartman.
Sounds delicious. But is it really higher in fiber than my oat bran cereal?
The actor was set to play the eccentric military officer Captain Zapp Brannigan, but unfortunately, he passed away before we'd ever get to hear him in the role. Billy West, who was a friend of Hartman and already voicing Fry, Professor Farnsworth, and Dr. Zoidberg, filled in his place. West has said that he worked off of Hartman's knack for announcer voices and the route that he intended to take with the character. West does a great job, but we can't help but wonder what could have been.
Quit goofing off! You may be asleep, but you're not on break!
Number 7. Wacko Warner is an impression of John Lennon and Ringo Starr. Animaniacs.
Sorry, it's the chocolate talking.
Hot chocolate? Hot chocolate?
Hello, Swiss Nurse Miss.
When Jess Harnell was called into a second audition for the voice of Wacko, he was asked to throw out a bunch of impressions, including Elvis and the Beatles.
I've been thinking of all the tunes I've got, and they're all slowish. I seem to be...
Yeah, most of mine are.
See, so far, there's a couple that I know I could do live with no backing.
Admittedly, Elvis wasn't quite a fit for Wacko. But voice director Andrea Romano took a liking to Harnell's Ringo Starr. Upon seeing a picture of the character, though, and discovering that he was, in fact, rather little, Harnell pitched up his voice into a more young-sounding John Lennon.
And then we just raised it up and made it small, and that became Wacko. So that was that.
And thus, the voice of Wacko Warner was born. Now, on to the important stuff. Do we prefer Yakko's World or Wacko's America? Sound off in the comments.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Columbus is the capital of Ohio.
Number 6. Betty Boop is basically Helen Kane. Various. Not only was the voice of Helen Kane used as inspiration for Betty Boop, her overall likeness was too.
I don't like the moonlight, or let's not talk in the dark. Oh, it's so unusual.
Side by side, the similarities are pretty remarkable. Short, curly black hair, big doll eyes, dancing mannerisms, and even her signature catchphrase.
I have to have boo-boo,
Kane didn't particularly appreciate the character, even after she went from anthropomorphic French poodle to human, and she sued the creator. She claimed her image was being exploited, and her career would suffer as a result. But the judge ultimately ruled against her.
You don't even know what poop
Given that Boop Boop a Doop is so widely associated with Betty Boop and not Helen Kane, maybe she was right to be worried. Number 5. SpongeBob's voice is based off an angry elf, SpongeBob SquarePants.
I took your advice. From now on, I'm normal.
Normal, huh?
Yep.
Tom Kenny is a total gem in the acting world, and the story of how the voice of SpongeBob came to be is fitting only to him. Kenny went into an audition where the neighboring gig was for the upcoming holiday season. He overheard one of the elves, a little person, who had a rather distinct tone and speech to pair, and thought it was great.
If you want to buy some black lemonade, you'll have to get in the back of the line.
As such, he passed on the story and imitated the elf for his friend Stephen Hillenburg. Fast forward a few years, and Hillenburg created SpongeBob and remembered Kenny's story. The character was all ready to go, and he had the perfect voice in mind.
Thanks, buddy. You saved my life.
Number 4. Peter Griffin's voice is inspired by Jackie Gleason, Archie Bunker, and a security guard. Family Guy.
Geez, you changed your relationship status already?
When you know, you know.
All right, but just be careful. You don't want to rush an important decision.
A number of Family Guy characters are actually imitations, including Stewie, who is an impression of Rex Harrison.
Rex Harrison was always so funny to me. Why don't I just do that voice and make it the baby?
There's also Chris, who's an impression of Buffalo Bill.
Because his voice was so like, oh, yeah, was she a great big fat bird, And so we just started putting him in every job, every drive-through we went through. We're like, all right, you want a combo meal?
You might be surprised to learn, though, that even the voice of Peter draws from some known names, such as Jackie Gleason and All in the Family's Archie Bunker.
All I'm saying is don't blame me, you, and that Reverend Bleeding Heart Felcher up there in his ivory shower.
The main inspiration, however, seems to come from a random Rhode Island security guard Seth MacFarlane overheard at his college. The voice made him laugh, and true to that sentiment, it makes the rest of us laugh too.
Peter? I touched the iPhone headphone.
Number 3. Homer Simpson started out as an impression of Walter Matthau, The Simpsons. The Simpsons is yet another cartoon with some great characters whose voices are inspired by celebrities. Mo Sizlak, for example, is Al Pacino, but more gravelly.
If this gets out, the next words you say will be muffled by your own butt.
And Gil Gunderson is based off of Shelley Levine, played by Jack Lemmon in Glengarry Glen Ross.
And the only arrangement that I will accept is full investment, and I mean it, that's it. All 8 units, period.
Homer himself started out as Dan Castellaneta's best impersonation of Walter Matthau.
How about sort of a It started out like this. How about sort of a Walter Matthau kind of a voice like that? And he said, okay, fine.
As the series went on, though, and the character needed to yell more, Castellaneta opted for something deeper that was easier to achieve. And we got the iconic Homer Simpson voice we all know today.
Things that cost $9.99 are really $10.
Number 2. The Flintstones are based off the Honeymooners. The Flintstones.
Well, of all the name, who appointed him king of the neighborhood?
The Honeymooners was such a classic sitcom that it was easy to replicate their format, at least in some way. The Flintstones may have taken their influence a little too far. Not only was the show's formula used, their characters were also incredibly comparable, from personalities to voices.
One of these days, I'm going to stop being so mild-mannered and even-tempered and forget I'm a gentleman.
The similarity between Fred and Jackie Gleason's character Ralph Cramden is no accident either.
Now I know why people play golf. It's not because they like this game. It's just to get away from their wives. That's what implies.
His voice actor, Alan Reed, actually used to substitute for Gleason's voice, so it's no wonder they're so alike. The only thing that saved the Flintstones from being sued or pulled off the air entirely was the fact that it was so cherished by audiences.
Next day, Variety comes out. Pen and ink disaster. That's what they call the Flintstones. 6 years later, the disaster was still going,
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Bugs Bunny is an impression of Clark Gable, the Looney Tunes franchise.
Magic can be performed either by potions or by the use of magic words and phrases.
Rabbits don't actually eat carrots. Well, they can, but it's not as common as pop culture would have you believe. This widespread belief can actually be attributed to Bugs Bunny, whose character was based off of Clark Gable's Peter Warren in It Happened One Night.
You don't have to worry about me.
I'm not interested in your money or your problem. You, King Wesley, your father, you're all a lot of hooey to me.
There's a clip of Gable munching on a carrot, talking at speeds faster than light, and being generally unbothered. All traits we've come to associate with our favorite Warner rabbit.
Expert. I'm going to write a book about it, called The Hitchhiker's Hail.
The parallels are uncanny, and it's pretty fascinating to witness an IRL bugs.
Young people in love are never hungry.
Incidentally, Foghorn Leghorn is yet another Looney Tunes character who's an impression. In this case, of Senator Cleghorn, played by Kenny Delmar on The Fred Allen Show.
That's a tough question.
You'll recognize iconic slogans like "That's a joke, son," and "I say."
Claghorn's her name. Beauregard Claghorn, that is. Howdy.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.